You are at the rant wall, which is where for $5 I will rant about a topic of your choice. If that's something you're interested in, check out the link in the description. This one, I gotta get my little screen to read from, comes from Firmament. You control the buttons you press. Perfect request. Absolutely legendary Twitter reply from the official Doom account. To give full context, this was back in the Doom Eternal era. They made a little promo tweet posting a video of the ice bomb in Doom Eternal being used and showing how cool it is. And then there was this guy asking, "Yeah, can we have an option to turn this off to disable this weapon?" Kind of like the classics. This could mean a billion different things, right? um, and the Doom account just hit them back with, "You control the buttons you press." Now, I could way overanalyze and say, okay, maybe this guy, they don't like the temptation of that being there. Like something about it puts them off. Something about this ice bomb doesn't feel like Doom, and they don't want to even be tempted to use it. Or maybe they want a mode that's designed with the expectation that you don't have access to this type of stuff. I don't know, which would make it a different game, right? I think the phrase "you control the buttons you press" it's become such a meme since. But in the context of Doom Eternal, it's extra funny because that's a game. Like, no matter how you feel about it, right? I think we can at least agree that it's a game that is obsessed with you playing it a certain way. It's obsessed with trying to get you to press every fucking button, right? Where literally a lot of weapons have very specific utility and don't really behave in a way that is that adheres to common FPS tropes, right? Like the rocket launcher is not this big fucking AoE thing that just melts everything with rare ammo. That's not how it works at all, right? Every weapon is supposed to be like rotated through very quickly. Again, you're supposed to press a million different buttons. Everything's on cooldown, blah blah. And again, game director Hugo Martin, he said that was very intentional, right? They want you to play the game in what they perceive to be the most fun way. And if you don't do that, you die, is at least the idea. Now, in practice, even as a Doom Eternal hater, I know that's not true. I was very stubborn on my playthrough. I used mostly the super shotgun on, admittedly a lower difficulty, ultra violence. It's like the third. Uh, it's like the one right below Nightmare, and I got through it pretty unscathed, right? Uh, so not even saying, oh, it's like the super limited game, blah, blah, blah. Like I know it. I know it's got some sauce. I know there's some stuff. I know there's some stuff. Okay. Um, I think I guess the this comment sort of speaks to the fundamental curative nature of games and gets under people's skin for that reason, right? There's a lot of fundamental beliefs about how much the designers should push you into a certain experience, guide you toward a certain experience, blah blah blah. In this context, I can't help but think about Bayonetta a lot. I've been playing Bayonetta a lot again recently, the first one, and one thing that kind of stuns me in retrospect, because obviously I'm playing on a complete save file, right? But I remember how the game kind of works, right? Of course, on a first playthrough, and one thing that really stuns me is when you get a new weapon and shit and all that shit and like just having different kinds of weapons, the game is completely indifferent toward it. In every other action game, they celebrate the shit out of that when you get a new weapon. Again, DMC is famous for this. Clearly, they want you to get hyped up to use a new weapon. In Bayonetta, you get a sword, and it's like, yeah, you got a sword, yeah, who cares? And I think it's this interesting combo of like clearly this is a pretty focused game where they they included things they had absolute confidence in. You know, even like the QTEs and the mini games and all that shit, right? This um clearly there's a strong conviction there. It doesn't feel like a watered down game, and yet it's also it doesn't feel the need to um uh like bend over backwards to have you understand it, right? If you play the entire game with sword plus Kilgore or something, right? It like they don't give a shit. Um, I I guess like you know I'm I'm personally not a f- I'm a fan of that type of curation, right? Where a game is so confident in all the elements it's included, and it kind of lets me rock with it. I think that's awesome. I think about a game like Breath of the Wild, and the side quests in that game to me felt very incongruous to the experience. I felt it didn't really fit the tone of that. I felt it's a game that needed even less structure than it had. And in this instance, I was able to control the buttons I pressed, and I just didn't engage with that part of the game, right? And I still like it's one of my favorite games. um, but I think again, necessitating curation. I guess the problem is that it's very subjective, like what you consider valuable to a game's uh, overall goal or overall vision, or like what appeals to your sensibilities, right? I'm sure there's people who would have hated the game if it didn't have side quests, but I guess what I always advocate for is designers understanding the vision of their game and sort of what is the most I don't know, conducive to whatever their goal is, right? And I get in Breath of the Wild's case, to me, it would have been a stronger statement to not have those types of structural, very traditional elements. I mean, and in fairness, it's a game that with very little structure comparatively. Um, I'm definitely a control the buttons I press type of guy. But it is also within reason, right? I remember in Death Stranding, there was a bunch of mechanics that I ignored because like I didn't I felt them make the game less enjoyable for me, right? But then at the same time, it's like um some games are just much more aggressive with how they shove bullshit in your throat, and uh then it turns into okay, I have to make an active effort to like ignore that shit, and then that really turns me off. I have one more point about this. Oh yeah, I I'm like really. I think this trend of like in RPGs where they have all these sliders to curate your experience to me is really grotesque. Um, I think I remember Xenoblade 2 was kind of heavily praised for that, for having, oh my god, you can um not the encounter rate, like but like the level up rate or the enemy scaling or whatever shit, right? Um, just design the fucking game. Like that shit is so lazy to me. And like I think it kind of exposes that so much of these mechanics are very transactional. And the thing you're transacting with, that's not a verb. But the thing you're trading is like your time. And you're just pushing the slider down to spend less time doing dumb bullshit. I don't know. I think yeah, what I believe in is like it's really cool when a game lets you find your own niche, but there should be a strong vision undergirding it. That's how I feel about that. Peace out.